evening, everybody. Thank you for being here for the October 15th board working session with the facilities public meeting. Open this meeting with a quick roll call. Nathan Gibson here.
Melissa Keller here.
Dan Hutton here. We have a quorum. The agenda for this evening is to OPM will present the master planning update. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Then proper motion and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I will hand it over to Ted and Craig.
All right, can you guys hear me okay? Can I talk loud enough? All right. Welcome, appreciate you guys being here. For those of you that haven't had an opportunity to this Chad Brandon, I get the privilege and opportunity to serve the district as superintendent of schools. Tonight, although we do have a formal presentation, some information we want to make sure you guys have before going to polls in a couple weeks. It's a very, very informal. So if at any point you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. We'll get your questions answered. Ultimately, we want everybody leaving here tonight with their questions answered so that you guys can go make an educated vote at the polls on November 4th. So I have with me, I have Rick from OPN and Garrett from Piper Sandler. Rick is going to talk through kind of the overall picture of what those renovations and things will happen throughout the potential project. And Garrett will walk through some of the financial aspects of the $12.8 million bond and what that looks like for the district. So with that said, I will turn it over to Rick to get us started.
Sure, sweet.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rick Seeley. I'm with OPN Architects. I've been helping the district for, boy, any number of years. Back in probably started with this renovation for the library many years ago. But in addition to being an architect, I'm also a St. Charles resident, so this is my community school district as well. So tonight is really just about giving you some information. I'm going to give you a presentation here that's pretty short and sweet. It's got 3 components to it, about a dozen slides, and then we can jump in and you can ask any questions you might have, and hopefully, as Chad said, I can answer some questions for you, and you can all go away with maybe a little better knowledge than you currently have. So first, let's start with a master plan. I'm not going to go deep on this, but I do want you to understand sort of how we got here. I would tell you the effort that's occurred since 21 has been a very good one here in terms of getting community input. There's been good participation in 2 forums that were done to complete a first master plan about the end of 2022. So that master plan led to breaking up a series of priorities for the school district to really use as a roadmap. So a master plan is a roadmap. It's not set in stone. It's something that can maneuver or be reprioritized. It's a living document that helps the district really decide what's next. So with that conclusion of that first master plan, the first priorities were identified as being really improvements to the high school science labs, and then in addition to that, the baseball, softball, concession fields that are now complete outside. Subsequent to that, in late 2024, we were asked then to think about the next phases that might come forward. So we looked back at the master plan, we did a refresh on that master plan, which also included some additional community input sessions, one of which was a community-wide survey. We had very good participation in that, 320 responses, and it asked much more detailed questions than maybe we were able to ask in any of the public forums previously. It reaffirmed many of the things that we heard previously. It also helped us make some recommendations to the facility committee, who then debated what priorities should come forward. Those were matched with funding dollars that the school could anticipate having, and it established a series of priorities for us then to move forward on. That was a recommendation that was made to the board. The board decided to take that recommendation for the next phase, which is what I'm going to show you this evening, and take that to the vote. So on November 4th, we all have a decision to make as we head to the polls. This is really just a quick snapshot of some of the things that are included in this next phase. We'll call this phase 2. So it has a number of things related to maintenance issues, and I'll go into more detail here, but you can see that it has maintenance issues, it has renovation issues, and it has new components that we are considering. So it's touching really, the four corners of the campus, and we'll give you an idea of some of those things that we intend to cover with the $12.8 million that we're asking for at bond. So the first is really about trying to address those maintenance and upgrades issues. One of the things I think the facility committee did a very good job on is as we identified needs, those needs were small, a roof leak, or they were large, like considering a new stadium. All of those things were considered, prioritized. Those things, whether they were small or large, moved to the top based on some urgency. We broke that down into a series of tiers of things that need to be done in 1 to 2 years, 4 to 6, and so on. This next phase then is really representing that next portion of the priorities. So the maintenance upgrades include finishing the air conditioning, which would be the high school gym, and the condition of the kitchen. There is an exterior EFIS system. What that means is there's exterior stucco, which is this portion on the upper portion of the elementary that you see here, that is now 25 years old. It never was a stellar product when it was out on the market originally, and it's really at end of life, and those things need to be replaced. We have things such as, a gym roof leak. We've got other things related to some of the mechanical tunnels that run the perimeter of the high school, have some structural components in small areas where we need to do some repair. So those are just a few of the things that will be covered under the maintenance and upgrades. In addition to that, then, there are academic renovations. So this looked at the entire campus. One of the things we heard in the master plan was we need daycare space and we need more space in the elementary. We have adequate space for middle school and high school, and we have underutilized spaces within the high school. So we looked at how to reorganize the entire campus in some ways to give it more flexibility as elementary versus secondary changes in terms of size, and we got that accommodated by moving the middle school classrooms that are primarily over in the elementary wing over the high school wing to give them more space over there to address additional classrooms and the support spaces that are necessary for our students. So this is an example of what generally is a diagram. This is the current configuration of the school. So anything in red is really the elementary. You can see the middle school, light blue, and high school. Primarily the class 4 is on the north end of the high school component there. What we did then was move the middle school over. We're taking advantage of some underutilized spaces that currently exist in the high school. There's a tiered auditorium, if you want to call it that, tiered classroom that is completely or nearly unutilized. We intend to revamp that. That will bring us 5 classrooms for middle school, take care of their needs. There will be additional renovation in high school, such as the restrooms. And by doing that, it frees up the 4, 5, and 6 to move into the north end of the elementary school and to embed those secondary support spaces that we would need. Down in the daycare area, we are creating additional daycare, pre-K, and kindergarten spaces. So we believe we've got accommodated the needs that we heard most as we were really trying to understand where the space needs were for the district. The last component is really the component that probably will be certainly most visible. We are considering a new stadium. The new stadium then would be placed immediately north of the existing one. It's been designed in long-term master planning as something that potentially can complement the baseball and softball fields. It adds on to it a concession stand that is now built. The intention there was that can serve both softball and baseball during season as well as football. If the stadium is built, additional restrooms will be added to address the capacity for the stadium. By doing that, it frees up the old stadium and field to be repurposed. That can be regraded expanded to allow for soccer. It allows us to get this loop road in and additional parking. And it's an added amenity that I would tell you, long-term can also give us really a cushion should any additional expansion need to come in, say, to the east. So there's some advantages to certainly making sure that we can do that. A couple things related to the stadium. It is new synthetic turf. It provides a new 8-lane track. It can also support a soccer field if you wanted to strike it for that as well. There is new bleachers, press box, lighting, scoreboard, additional restrooms, and it does some things like orient the field north-south, which is a preferred orientation for the field, and it will also give us the ability to use it more often. By just having synthetic turf, we don't have to give the field rest after bad weather or excessive use. So it can be used immediately the next day, depending on whatever, no matter what the function is the previous day, and it certainly can dry out much faster as well. So that's some of the reasoning for going to the new stadium in that location. The last thing that I will mention, I think this was mentioned in maybe the mailing if you all happen to catch that. The other advantage by doing that is we avoid losing a season if we wanted to consider completely renovating the existing stadium in place. So we don't have to have a season loss or a down season while we're really working on or reconstructing the existing field. So again, the projects that make up the full scope of the work, $12.8 million is the proposal on the bond referendum. And with that, we're going to turn it over to Garrett here. The next steps are really make sure you're comfortable and don't have any questions tonight. You can ask questions of me now or later. But please get out and vote on November 4th. And make sure you ask any questions you can tonight, please.
Thanks, Rick. You have a question?
I have a question. Do you want me to wait till the end?
Nope.
or-
You can go right now while we're passing out some paper.
Okay, perfect. I'm a parent of a past graduate as well as a 6th grader going into 7th. The biggest concern I have is my 7th grader mixing in with high schoolers. That's very concerning. And knowing, having a daughter that was here several years ago, it's packed in there. The high school's packed. They're very close together, and how are we expanding? How are we expanding the elementary? That's wonderful. I think that's great. But how are you going to accommodate those kids as they come up? We have a large 5th grade class too. They're really big, like I think over 100 kids. So my 6th grader going into 7th grade, I'm concerned with him being that close to a senior. I don't like that at all. And it seems like there's not going to be enough room. How are we going to accommodate wall space, bathroom space, locker space, classroom space? That's a lot.
Yeah, I'll let Chad speak to the growth or the what we based the assumptions on as we move forward. We're comfortable with what we understand from the district on allowing that to happen. There is some separation, although I do take your point. We're putting middle schoolers in a corridor also with high school students, so they will certainly overlap. It's not like it's separated over into the elementary. We've met the district's requirements that we have, and we believe we've met the initial growth that we anticipate, which is very modest, is what I understand. You can talk in more detail on that, perhaps?
As far as the growth that we've had?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to that image.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So this bring the 7th and 8th grade over here. So 9 through 12. Remember, part of that renovation is to take some of this space and create a classroom out of this space. Also, our current ICN room, Rick talked about that leveled classroom. That's going to be created into an actual classroom, right? So really, the 7th and 8th grade will remain underneath this hallway here, right? And then there's bathrooms down here as you head into the common that 7th and 8th grade will be assigned to and use. And we have bathrooms just down the hallway here that will be renovated as part of the project that will be assigned to the 9th through 12 students. So will there be interaction? Yeah, I mean, naturally, as kids flow and then go in through the hallway and stuff, there may be interaction. But it's not uncommon in schools, especially our size, for that interaction to happen. And the spaces we're designing the spaces so that that interaction is minimal. So,
Is there a reason or plans in the future to expand that a little bit in that area for the secondary school?
Like the hallways, because 8 years ago we were shoulder to shoulder. Like passing through the hallways when other classes got out, and I know we've grown since then.
our enrollment has not gone up since then. No. So our enrollment has decreased since 8 years ago. So our enrollment doesn't indicate that we need to add square footage. So this is a way that we manipulated things a little bit to use the square footage that we have.
Maybe to add on that, we did consider additions. So that was looked at. One of the concerns was, do we have enough of the space to support the students in addition to the classroom? As we went further within the boundaries of the full existing building, it was something that we could certainly accommodate and better. So we feel good that we've got the amount of support all the students need, and to basically address the needs and align those with costs and priorities. It was something we just determined that an addition wasn't necessary at this moment. Is there the ability to do it in the future? Absolutely.
I don't see where your additional restrooms going into. So you're going to add another 80 students to the restroom by the old office.
We're renovating the restrooms in this area,
Which is the one right by the common.
right down here, in this wing, not next to the commons.
And that will be used by 9 through 12.
Yes.
And so they, 7, 8 will use the one up by the old office.
Right, that's what I understand.
And no 9th or 12th graders will be using that restroom.
Like, I can't say that they will never be in there, no. But when there's students in the classroom in instruction, they're going to be assigned to that bathroom and go to that bathroom. 7th through 8th grade, or 7th and 8th grade, they will go down to the one by the commons. Like I said, we can't totally eliminate the interaction. That'll be impossible.
Do you have a list of your pros and cons or recommendations of putting a middle school in the high school?
Actually, we're just working on that today, but we don't have that ready to post out yet. Yeah.
I was shocked to hear that you started this in 22. I don't know.
Yeah.
I agree with her, it's a very big concern. We don't know how much kids are going to use that restroom, the gym kids are going to use the restroom. And there's not enough stalls in there anyway, so I don't know where your expansion for that restroom is going to be.
Well, the restrooms are up to ADA compliance, so we have the compliance, we have the code compliance. So there's enough stalls in there. We meet that.
But we don't have the age of the bathroom
What age requirement?
of having your 8 through 12 in the same restroom.
Is there a what code? What are you referencing with compliance there?
It's just the interaction, and once that bathroom's going to be supervised, you don't want your 8th grade girls going with your 12th grade girls.
As a parent, as we all talking about a parent, that is concerning. I mean, I wouldn't want my daughter, my son, being there. That's all. That's a huge concern. So.
Okay.
Thank you. Other questions?
So in the mornings when we have 7th and 8th grade also out here in the commons, 7th through 12th, how are we going to separate that? Because they're already together now. So are we going to be dismissing at different times? Because one time now they go one direction and now they go the other direction. This way they're going to be all going the same direction. So you're adding 120 more students.
You could dismiss in shifts. I think that's just something we work through with Mr. Beckel and the staff. I think that's an easy solution.
With the drop in enrollment, do you see in the future that we will be sharing staff? So our Algebra 1 kids will not be in the middle school, they'll go to high school for algebra, or the science labs, or?
That could potentially happen, yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, what is being done with the old track? And you talked about the football field, but what's being done with the old track? We're just taking the $400,000 track and letting it go to pot, or what?
Well, first, it's near the end of its life, so that's one of the things that also is a good thing in terms of timing if we can choose to build a new stadium. If we don't do that, it is something that's going to have to be replaced regardless, so it gets resurfaced.
How long is the life of the track then? Because it's not even 20 years
I'm not
old.
the expert on this, but I think it's roughly 12 years, and there will be intermittent maintenance in the meantime.
It all depends on, well, this is how you guys semester.
Yes.
It all depends on the tracks. So nowadays, tracks are put in with a concrete base and the asphalt on top, which is not what we have out there. So tracks now, as long as you're repainting and re-asphalting every 8 to 10 years, can last 30 plus years. But that's not the track we currently have out there. So we repainted that once in the last 12 years, I believe, if I go back to Ray and everything. We did that 4 years ago, and it's already extremely faded. And there's a lot of cracking. The base isn't there.
So the thought is, and what we've estimated costs in Project Slope Grant is removing that track ultimately because we want to expand the size of the field to make sure that it can offer better multi-purpose use and support soccer as well, should we grow the soccer team like we're saying.
In one of your sentences, it says, it refers to a new stadium, and then it says, if one was ever built. And then in the next question, it says, the facilities including a new stadium and track. That's a contradiction.
Yeah, we're just trying to present the facts as this is what's up for vote on the law, yes or no to this particular scope. If it's yes, the stadium will be built. If it's no, it isn't.
Okay, so if it's passed, there will be a new stadium. Okay. You're saying 12 million, 13 million. Do we have stages of what's going to come first? I saw you said top priority was the baseball field in your...
Right, so that's complete. That was phase one. So now we're talking about phase two. Phase two is everything that we're talking specifically that will be covered by this bond. So it's the reconfiguration of the school, it's the new stadium, it's the maintenance components that make up that, and all of that totals up just shy of 2.8 million to make sure that we've got contingency to cover and get it all done.
And the stadium was at the top of the list.
The stadium is included in that list, yes.
It's not at the top.
It's in phase two, which means, yes, it's in this set of priorities. We have priorities that are groups of things, which aligns with the funding streams that the school has. So this group, we can cover with the 12.8 million, and the stadium is included within that.
You don't know that you can cover the 12.8. You haven't taken any bids.
Yes, we're pretty good at estimation.
Okay. Let's say it comes in at 15 million. What will you cut?
That's a determination that we have to make at the time. Potentially projects are downsized to work within the budget we have. There won't be a bust of $2 million on this, is what I would tell you.
Okay.
And within, you know, within,
$4 either,
but within all of these estimates, I mean, they are just that. They're estimates. They're educated estimates There is contingency built into that. There's planning for unknown costs as well. So those things help protect the 12.8 and the scope of work that we want to try to accomplish.
Okay. Somebody know what our Pebble budget is? How much?
One is rough number a year is about 400,000 that we get in from Pebble.
Would that redo the football field?
No. And that's used to maintain what we currently have.
There's 3 different football options that the committee, which is all on our website, I'm happy to give it to you, but then you'd be able to see if you, all the bids that came in on if you renovated in place and left the grass field, but you did the track and the stands and bathrooms, right? If you renovated in place and did the turf field, or, which includes concessions, restroom, there are all those, or you just do the track and field up and use the concessions building, the restroom that's with softball, baseball right now, so you have the same building year-round for all exterior activities. That spreadsheet is online, and when we put it out to the public, so you can see the breakdown of all 3, and the committee went with that option. The by far most expensive was renovating in place and doing turf. I mean, you're talking over $1 million more than the other 2 options. You don't also get the extra field, right, if you're using the same one, but, and I'm happy to make sure you know where that is for you.
I don't have it.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
I can print it for you and get it to you, too. So.
Okay. Can we clarify, so when we vote, we're just voting right now on the planning part, right? Like, the plan in phase 2, should it come down in 4 years that things are more costly? We're not voting for everything that's in phase 2 because that might mean something gets cut or downsized or, like, my vote is just going, am I voting for the bond to pass the money for a potential phase 2 with the reality that things might shift in the coming years due to costs?
Yeah, and the statement on the ballot. So your statement on your ballot will say to provide funds to remodel, repair, improve, equip the school building, including reconfiguration of academic spaces, HVAC, mechanical and exterior improvements, to build, furnish, and equip athletic field facilities, including new stadium and track, parking, and site improvements, to demolish the existing stadium and track and improve the site, and to build a new access road to the school campus. We can't go outside of that.
Okay, thank you, that's, I just,
Best.
personal clarification.
Yeah, and to come back to your question about the priorities, one of our board members and facilities committee member reminded me, part of the facilities conversation, when we talk about priorities, was HVAC, finished HVAC, and the maintenance were inside the building. So the EFIS, we have roof repair, HVAC, there's a couple other items on there. So those are the things we want to get done and make sure we get done first.
Okay,
That
and
answer your
that
question?
can come from your Pebble. No, that's coming from the bond.
That's coming from the bond.
But it could out of your Pebble.
But remember, we have about $400,000 in Pebble a year. HVAC, just putting HVAC in the gym would be over 500.
Okay.
So, I mean, that just gives you perspective, right?
Okay.
If this library is going to be turned into classrooms, where will the new library go?
We'll reconfigure it. We'll still have a library in here.
This will still be a library as well?
Yeah.
Well, how many classrooms do you anticipate putting in here then? And how big is the library going to be?
We have that. I don't think we have anything in the.
No, I don't have anything in the presentation for you. I can give you some information if you want to visit me. This potentially can be divided up into 3 other usable spaces. We're looking at one that would be a portion of the class. So you can imagine one here, one portion in the center, and another off to that side. You can then expand or contract any of those as you want. So the other thing it does is it inherently gives us flexibility for how you want to use this space in the future.
Like the accordion walls?
I think they would be more permanent than that. So we want to make sure that we're considering acoustics and making it a good learning environment as well. we've got, I think, some space within this volume that's a little underutilized, which is one of the reasons it was considered.
So 3 classrooms and a library in here.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there
Okay.
are 3 distinct spaces. You can have 1 classroom and leave
Okay.
2 as the
Okay.
library. You could move those things around depending on your needs
Okay.
as you look into the future.
Have they discussed this in any of the classrooms, do you know? I'm
Kids?
here, yeah, with the students, because my daughters come home pissed. She's like, we're not gonna have a library. So that's why I was asking. So I'm just curious as to what the students are being told, if anything.
No, but there's for sure 2 halls, there are 2 classrooms that have to come on well, in high school. So you have to at least get 2 classrooms.
I haven't shared any, I haven't talked to the spoken to the kids. But I would ask, is she upset because she's losing space over at the books, or is she upset because she's losing
She
space
is,
over at the
well,
table?
she was mentioning the books, because she's like, where are we putting our books?
Those will still be here. We're not getting rid of the
Well,
books.
that's what's the
Yeah,
rumor, so that's what I was curious.
Because we'll still have space that they have, a study hall or whatever that might be, with tables and things like that. That space will still exist. Question way over there.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of dovetailing on what she's asked about the library. If the concern is for space as far as the library is presently going out this way, is there any consideration of going up, like make it a two-level library? I mean, is that out of the question? That way you wouldn't have to be concerned about making sure there's room enough for
As soon as you
books and
start,
everything.
yeah,
Just make it a two-level library.
it's a reasonable question. As soon as you start to go to 2 stories, now we need an elevator. There's sort of this cascading set of requirements that's necessary. I would also tell you that this building and what it sits on as foundations have been designed for the building to make 1-story building. So you can put a 2-story on top of it, but it's not just simple as adding on the roof. You've got to deal with the foundation structurally as well. So it's all a cost issue, and there's more cost-effective ways to get the same square footage as what I'm telling you.
You can tell I was retired.
Hell of time.
A couple of years ago, it was talked about the state of Iowa was providing grants for daycare. Where does that money come in? Or did we apply for it? Did we get it?
Daycare grants?
I know that A35 has one that they can use towards salaries, giving incentives to staff, the daycare staff department, making incentives, so quarterly, depending on attendance, then that staff gets a little bit extra. It's not hourly wage or anything like that. And they're kind of eating into that grant that was here before I was here. But
The only other thing
that's all I can.
Yeah, the only other thing I can tag on to that is in '22, when we were doing the master plan, there was investigation into grants. I assume that also included grants for brick and mortar. I don't know whether any of those grants even still exist. So that fell away as we advanced the master plan and actually looked at the priorities.
You're going to add classrooms, where's the increase in salaries and going to become, you're going to have to add staff too, right?
No.
You have enough people to cover your daycare and your kindergarten.
So I have a question, it's kind of off, but there. In all of this, do we ever look at anything for our agricultural classes and FFA and everything? Because they kind of are losing space once we did all this stadium work and everything else. So are we gonna do anything to make that better for them? Provide them anything, whatnot, because they just got condensed to a small area, and if you look at your FFA group, they're bigger than a lot of the sports teams out there, and your agricultural classes, and honestly, you're a we got more kids into the agricultural fields, leaving the school than you are any other places. So I didn't know if that was something that was looked into or what we were providing for them in space and such.
Yeah, so in our last bond, we built the CTE building, which involves that space, right? So they have that to utilize. We also have been in conversations and have an agreement with the neighbor to include bring back row cropping for our FFA. So we have that as well. So, but specific to FFA as part of this bond, there's nothing that I would point to and say this is just for FFA or anything like that. But they definitely have received some things.
So what you were just saying to the land, you said you're talking to the neighbor. Okay, is that a done deal? Or are you just in talking stages, or where are you on that land?
To the east of the youth fields, by done deal, I'm not going to say it's in writing, multiple individuals between the school district and the farmer over there. It's been in conversations for, I'd say, almost 6 to 7 months now. As we got through this season and looking at starting next year, there seemed to be no issue with it at all for 4 years.
Could you say how many acres it is?
I can ask Ryan. I don't want to lie and tell you that I remember the exact number.
Could it be
So.
changed?
It was comparable, if not more, than what we had up here before.
Could we take that to the bus barn? Do we not have plenty of land at the bus barn?
I don't know about that one.
It's a ditch. I don't think we could do row crops out there. I'm not a farmer.
Yeah, it's a ditch and timber out there. Way back in my buddy's parents out of it. We've got about the goodie we can get out of that for space for the school. We just have to know.
All right, I will turn it over to Garrett.
All right, well, thank you. Now the fun part, how do we pay for it? So I handed out a handout, and I'll talk through that here in a second. Just for some context, if you're curious, is your district crazy for going out for a bond election? I think this year in November, there's 43 schools across the state that are voting, which may seem like a large number. Here a couple of years ago, the state changed some of the legislation that now districts only have one chance each year. So November of every year is the only eligible voting date to put forth a bond referendum like this. So last year was the first year that we saw that new legislation go in place. I think there was 35-ish schools that voted. This year now again there's 43. So lots of districts are doing this. We've been, especially this time of year in the fall, all over the state talking with different districts, having these types of conversations. The one thing I'll say about your district that's unique is yours is not a tax rate increase. So most districts, when we go to community forums like this, we're talking about, okay, what is the tax impact? How much more, if you own a residential home or a commercial piece of property, if you have ag land, how much more are you paying to pass this bond? Your district is unique that that's not the case. Now you might be wondering, so wait, we get this $12.8 million project for free? Well, none of us are that naive, right? There's no free lunches. So what it will be is it'll be an extension of your debt service levy. So the district, as Superintendent Chad said, back in 2017, the district passed a GO bond, and that was a 20-year bond. So the length of GO bonds has a maximum length of 20 years. So the original estimated final payment for that was 2037. What did your district do? Well, they had the foresight. They knew future projects were going to come. So what they did was they utilized what's called a surplus or a prepayment levy. So your district has the ability to levy up to $4.05 in the debt service levy, but the actual GO bond debt payments only required around $2.20. So what the district did was each year they managed their budget, they managed the tax rate, and they started prepaying on that debt. So the current estimated final payment is now 2028. So paying off the bonds 9 years early, which is a good thing because without that, the district would not be able to do this $12.8 million project with no tax rate increase. So that was good. but it also saves the district just north of $1 million in interest cost savings. So just like if you were to pay off your home mortgage early, obviously that means you're not paying interest over all those years. So by cutting off essentially 9 years, it's just over $1 million that I think should be commendable for the administration that again had the foresight for planning for future projects, but also as stewards of the taxpayers' money, hopefully a good thing that that's $1 million that will never be levied, that you will never have to pay. So that's a good thing. So this new bond, this $12.8 million, what does that look like? How do they layer that on? Well, as I mentioned, now the estimated final payment is 2028. So if this passes here this year, the FY26 budget is already in place, that's already set. So the first year that you would have a new debt payment would be in 2027. That would be layered on top, it would be structured so that it would be, a level debt service levy for those 20 years, but that would now be extended out for 20 years. Now, similarly to how the district prepaid on the prior bonds, the district will have that ability if they so choose. Those will be things that will be determined into the future, but will likely have the ability, if they so choose, to start prepaying that debt as well. So the handout that I gave you was a chart of just looking, the first table or the first chart is looking back almost 10 years, back to 2017, at where was the district's overall tax levy rate. So you can see for many, many years, the district held it fairly stable at that 1867. And then here in this most recent year, the district had some savings across the various different funds. And so, again, you likely haven't seen that yet hit your tax bill, as this is for the FY26 tax rate. But that has now dropped to $17.50. So over $1 decrease in the tax levy rate. Well, the natural question would be, okay, well, what's going to happen into the future? Well, no one has a crystal ball, right? What's enrollment going to do? All these different things. But one of the things we also assist the district with, in many districts across the state, is a 5-year budget projection model, where there's all sorts of different, assumptions and things that can be made, but we look at enrollment, expenditures, revenues, things like that to figure out, okay, what's going to happen 5 years out into the future? Well, that's what the bottom table shows. So you can still see some of the historical data, that's the same as the top table. But then we're showing we've done some work with the district to project out 5 years. Can the district still, pay all their teachers and, manage their PEPAL fund and those revenues, keep all the existing facilities going, but also layer on top this new debt? And what you can see is the district has the ability to keep that levy rate at that $17.50. Now, what's going to happen 10, 20 years from now? I mean, there's so many things that will change between now and then, but each year we come out with a new model that has a new 5-year projection. So these are conversations that are ongoing all throughout the year that our firm has with your administration team, doing these projections, understanding, okay, here's where our expenditures are, here's where revenues are, and constantly updating this. So I would say your district is very proactive. Not all districts utilize a 5-year projection. Some do, some don't. I think yours is prudent, and your administration staff has done a nice job of utilizing that to know what's coming. And so this is what it will look like out into the future. So I don't want there to be any confusion, right? There is no free lunch. It still is a cost, but it's just an extension of the debt service payments that you've already been making. So your overall tax rate is not going to go up. It's going to stay where it is and actually lower than where it's been historically at that $17.50. So there may be specific questions. I wanted to keep my portion brief. I can talk all night about what the district has done and what's going on.
Taxes might be the same, but they raise your assessment up, so that's how they get you more.
Say that again?
Tax rate might be the same, but they jack your assessment up, so that's one way to get it. They don't raise your taxes, they just raise your assessment. So it goes that way too, but.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, your assessment will change regardless of whether this passes.
It has.
The assessments will change. Now, this is where if I was talking about what's, how much our tax is going to go up and that sort of thing, it is important to understand for the different classes of property how that works. So you have your assessed valuation. So if you own a residential home in the district or ag land would be the same. you get your assessed value, but that's not what taxpayers pay taxes on. So you pay taxes on the taxable value. So for the different classes of property, there's a rollback rate. And for this current year, residential rollback rate, I don't have it in front of me, but it's 47.34%, something like that, 47 point something. That changes every year. So the state adjusts that every year because across the state, assessments can only go up, or taxable valuations can only go up 3%. Now, there might be pockets of the state that go up slightly more, slightly less, but that's the goal of the state, is they adjust that rollback rate. So next year it could be 46% or it could be 48%. They'll adjust that based on what happens to assessments. The same is true for agricultural land. This year, 77.8%, something like that, is the rollback rate on agricultural, but very similarly, it can only go up 3% across the state. So they will adjust that rollback rate year in and year out. So the assessments that come out, like back in, I think it was 23, I think was when there was the big assessment hike that most citizens probably saw, especially if you own a residential home, and ag was the same. Probably went up 20, 30, maybe even 40%, your assessments did. Assessments went up that high, taxable valuations did not. There was a large change in the rollback rate that the year prior at the time, residential rollback rates was, I think, 54%, and it got adjusted all the way down to 47%. So again, the state will change that year in and year out, but you are correct. If the tax rate stays the same, more than likely, if you own a home or ag land or a commercial building, more than likely all of our valuations are going to go up. That, you know, if you buy your home today for $300,000, 5-10 years from now, it's probably worth $350,000, $400,000, whatever it is. So valuations will go up, but that's going to be the same whether this bond passes or not. But it is a good point. Yeah, valuations will increase over time. Other questions about finances, or we can kick it back to the project as well, but specific.
Your finances are only within the school district itself, which but taxes are assessed by and paid to the county. And for everybody aware of all the shenanigans that nice word has been going on in Madison County in the last year. And to be honest, I don't trust them. Which maybe isn't directly for you, but it kind of drifts down to you because they are collecting taxes and distributing.
Yeah, so.
I mean, I don't know if you have anything to say to that, but I think it's really down here.
I mean, now we're probably getting into personal opinion, which I don't know. We all probably have our own opinion here, so I'll probably.
Well, the treasurer was arrested for embezzlement.
Yeah, no, I fully understand. I'm not saying that I'm agreeing with anything. I'm just saying that we probably all have our own.
That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
We're jumping into the sheriff's office.
Yeah. So all I can say in terms of for this bond specifically is we're talking about the school district's tax rate. Yes, you're going to pay taxes to the county and the city.
Subset of the county. The county collects and it administers all the taxes, and the school district is this for a subset of that gets the school district.
Yep.
But still, the dirt rolls down to the top.
Yeah, and I would just say, I mean, again, maybe I'm getting off of more of my topic of what I should be talking about, but hopefully, right, we have hope in the justice system that if something illegal is being done, that the correct action is taken and that gets corrected.
Our current treasurer has worked there for many years, so
Yeah.
she's pretty reliable.
So this is how it's supposed to work within, you know, coloring between the lines, right? If somebody's breaking the law, and now we're coloring outside the lines, and hopefully that gets corrected. But
that was just a concern. I'm not sure we have the answer around it.
Yeah, the district did receive what we were supposed to receive. It's never an exact number, but we weren't short in any of these budgets or pockets by any amount. It didn't affect us. Payments came in late, but we got them.
which I would maybe just say is another benefit of using the budget forecasting tool, that if something came in where the district didn't receive revenues they were supposed to, or they were billed for something they weren't, well, we would notice that. Oh, wait a minute, we were projecting this is way off, what happened? So I think there's, just like for probably many of you in the crowd here, you probably have some sort of personal budget and things like that you try to track and understand what you're going to be spending. I think the district has done a good job as stewards of taxpayer money to try to know what this current year looks like, but also project and make sure that they're good stewards into the future. Other questions?
My other financial question is more local to the school district. Maybe I'm an old retired part than I am. But I noticed all the expenses for, they had pre-K or preschool classes and which is space and teachers. And my understanding would be the schools were K through 12. So why is the school district providing and funding pre-K daycare service, which I understand is a very important thing to those parents of those young children, but why is that part of the public school?
There's state aid that comes in for the 4-year-old voluntary preschool. There is state aid that's part of this.
State, there's separate money for them to the state.
That's part of our
So I'm saying,
tax rate.
that's not K through 12, because that's obviously before K.
But it's part of the state aid for public education. It does also.
But what kind of
There's a
aid,
parent cost.
what kind of aid do they provide? Because it's taking up prime real estate that.
There's two aspects.
I mean, there's classroom space, and you also have to have staff to man that too.
The parents pay a portion, and then the district does provide that for the 4-year-old preschool. There's the funding, the state aid funding, and we have to stay within that budget for that. Otherwise, anything additional has to come from the private pay from either parents getting grants from other sources to help pay their tuition, or they're paying their tuition themselves. And the daycare, they're paying it too.
Because I know that is a concern for young parents with children that young.
Can you hear me all right?
But.
Sorry. I would just expand to, like, as, you know, building a community, we know that early intervention and early support and education is essential. And so we do have a unique service in our school, right? We have 3-year-olds here all day. We utilize DHS, and there's granted for that, and that's completely parent funded, right? The school's not paying money into that, but that allows us to serve those extra grades. The 4-year-olds are different, and those are part of the money. I know sometimes you hear K-12, but in my head there, 4-year-old preschool has now become kind of shifted into that zone, so that's part of it. And the other thing to be noted with daycare, it does take space, but I will also say we have a significant number of open enrolled families that are utilizing the daycare, and that dramatically impacts enrollment. So if those open enrollment families don't have that daycare option, then they're not going to be here, and our enrollment goes down, and you can see cascading effects. So the daycare actually prevents student enrollment drops because such a significant amount of kids utilize that. Otherwise, their parents won't be able to get them here. Right? They're going to go to the school that's in their area. So there's more in the weeds of that than meets the eye.
Kind of hear what you're saying. So the money's coming from the state and some from the parents.
Yes.
But not from, I mean, it's a good thing, but not from the community, money from the community at large.
Right.
To property
Right.
taxes.
Right. The parents are forking the load, right, for those things that don't.
And I know that's expensive for administrators to have.
Does your kitchen people take on the responsibility of feeding these daycare 3-year-olds? That comes out of our money.
No.
No. You pay those cooks out of this parent.
So 4-year-old preschool is against a state-funded program, right?
Yes.
And we run 2 classrooms of 3-year-old preschool, and that funding comes through parents pay for that, right? And for example, during the summer, we don't pay kitchen staff. They have to bring their lunches to school every day.
But during the day, you pay Mrs. Jones to stay in the kitchen longer.
During the day, they're here for preschool. They're not here for daycare. They're here for school.
So who's going to pay those cooks to provide food for daycare?
We don't provide, daycare only means before school or after school.
But you
or in
want
the
an
summer.
all-day program.
No,
You don't want an all-day program.
no. We run preschool during the day, but then those kids that are in preschool, or we have kids up to 6th grade that utilize the daycare program, right? So at 3:20, school's out,
Okay.
and parents aren't there yet, right? The daycare functions before school and after school to support essentially parent needs of childcare outside of the school day.
Do you have a proposed number of daycare students for next year, the following year, for elementary, for high school?
Yes, I don't know if a projection is the right way to say it, and I heard you earlier ask about staffing. I think the big thing to know is, right now, we're shoving in grannies, closets, etc. So like, I think about our big kids, before and after school, we have about 70 kids participating right now, and we can't take any more, because they have one classroom for that space currently. And that classroom's, square footage allows for 20 kids. So we have to count the cafeteria, we have to count the hallway. It's just really not conducive, especially if you think about safety in a daycare. We're using the cafeteria at night, and there's a junior high basketball game or volleyball game, and we're not upholding our end on safety and those things. So the numbers are already there. We're at that, we can't continue to do these things and have these extra programs with the space that we have, because we've got multiple teachers in one classroom. We have the daycare, but they're utilizing space and square footage that's not, meant for that purpose. So
I think your 3-year-olds are 1 to 9 on staff.
Say that again?
If you're a 3-year-old, it's supposed to be 1 staff to 9.
1 to 8, actually.
1 to 8,
Yep.
that's all fine.
Yep. So we run 2 3-year-old preschool classrooms during the day currently, but that program ends at 11:15, right? And then a large portion of those kids stay in after-school daycare from 11:15 till daycare closes around 6 or 6:30, right? So they're here and they're still in those rooms during the afternoon when 3-year-old preschool is ended.
I know you've been a very busy lady. How many more staff are you going to be responsible for?
I really truly think it's not a staffing issue. We've got all the staff. We just don't have the space to support.
Okay.
And I want to address Rhea's concern earlier too about mixing the seventh grader with a high schooler. While I don't want anybody to experience that, I do want you to be aware that right now, because of the setup and what we have to do to share space, we have our STEM room in the 7th and 8th grade hallway. So right now, preschoolers are sharing a bathroom with 8th grade boys. So that mixing in those, while it could be great in some circumstances, there are circumstances where it can not be great, right? And so that mixing of significantly younger with significantly older is currently happening. So I get the concern for sure, but I want you to be aware, we're already experiencing those things, just in a different area of the building and in a different way. So that's something to keep in mind too.
So you would be the administrator for daycare through 6th grade?
Yep, unless Chad fires me, I suppose.
I don't think you have to worry. And so do we have a middle school principal, or will that?
I have through 6th
You
grade.
need a raise.
Yeah.
I vote, when you get those 7th graders, you need a raise.
And that's part of it too, is he's in charge of 7th and 8th grade, and he's here, and they're.
So I'm running over there for discipline.
But they're not mingling. Wait till they mingle.
Yes, yep. Always excited. Yeah.
That you said that, I mean, we're running out of space for daycare, we're running out of space for all of this. We should be expanding the building. That seems very important, and we're not. I mean, like, we're making more space of what we have. And we're accommodating daycare, that's amazing. Like, I think it's amazing that we have that program, but they've also taken those spaces.
Right.
right? I mean, like, I absolutely love what we're doing. I think that's my biggest concern. Like, I love a lot of the stuff that's going on, but we are having the same issue. Like, you're kind of moving, shifting stuff around and you're not expanding the school space. So.
Yep. I totally get your point, and I think Chad tried to speak to that earlier, where enrollment's not changing, but programming is growing, right, in different capacities. Like, we added STEM a few years ago. That's a whole new room and a large room, and, you know,
Added daycare, right?
Yep, we added daycare, we've expanded 3-year-old preschool, like, all of those things are wonderful, and we don't want to lose those, but they take space, right?
And we're
I
trying
think,
are we trying to get, I mean, we want more enrollment, I'm guessing. I mean, we're building this beautiful facility.
right,
We want more students, right?
Right.
Enrollment doesn't change right now.
right.
We don't see that projection. We definitely want more students.
You need to talk about housing, then if you want more students.
Yeah.
That's not a
Nobody
school
can pay here.
It's far from
We're
expensive.
a gold mine here, actually. We got a house here.
Yeah, no, I think your point's valid. I think at this point in time, though, we have to build a plan with that fiscal responsibility in mind, as Chad stated, around the numbers we have right now. But I also think with our approach to, as I already forgot this guy's name, but Garrett's information, we really try to be cognizant of making sure that we take care of those financial commitments and making sure that we're able to uphold those priorities we need in the future. So spacing becomes an additional issue here on this one end when it's not right now. But if that becomes an issue, then, you know, that's where we look at that phase 3 and what are all those things. So I don't think it's the end of the road for your concern. I just think right now they're building it based on the numbers that we have right now and the spaces that we have right now, because it's justifiable at this time. In 5 years, if we grow, great. I guarantee that changes things, and we'll, you know, look at that in a different way.
What's the time frame? Like, I know you probably touched on this. Are you thinking it's like next year? What the time frame of everything moving forward? If it's passed, sorry.
Yeah, if it passes, we can begin to explore a award for who will be designing it, and then ultimately move into bidding and construction. That can happen as early as the next one.
What happens in the construction with all the students?
Some of it happens during the summer. Anything that's internal is what I can tell you.
This is simple majority vote, or is
That's
that
what
what
we're
you're
saying.
saying?
Yeah, that helps.
Super majority vote.
60?
60%. 60, it has to be 60% yes to pass.
Is there a contingency plan if it doesn't, like, has that been explored, like, what we, I mean, like, Daniel's talked about the PK8 thing, like, I'm kind of situated right in the middle of that. I'm in the 5-6 hallway, but I work with K all the way to 5th grade. So if, like, my first grader has to go to the bathroom, I have to walk him all the way down to the 3rd and 4th grade hallway, because I'm not putting him in a bathroom with 7th and 8th graders. He's a peanut of a kid, like, it's just not appropriate. Has there been other explorations of, like, if the 12.8 doesn't pass, are there smaller projects that we can do, or, like, what does it look like?
Well, from the financial component, if this doesn't pass, this needs voter approval. So the district can't say, well, they said no to 12.8, let's do 3 million. It's sort of, they have the authority to levy the debt for the 12.8, or they don't. Now, the district does have sales tax revenue they receive as well as PEPAL revenue. But back in 2023, the prior project that was talked about, that was a safe borrowing, or sales tax revenue. So there really isn't capacity to borrow additional funds from sales tax. So you already think of kind of tapping out that resource that for other projects. Your PEPAL revenues, as April mentioned, generally used for ongoing maintenance of existing facilities. Not typically a ton of use for, sometimes there's enough if you're able to save over a number of years for a smaller project to pay cash for. But when you're already using your sales tax revenues for other projects, generally that's used for existing facility maintenance and upgrades and things like that.
So I think part of the question is, so if this doesn't pass in November, we've heard kind of some dire situations. We've got roof leaks, we've got EFACE, I don't know what the word is, that needs fixed. We've got a preschool that needs expanded and kids mingling. Do we start from scratch? Is it go back to the committee? Do we wait until next November for another vote? Like, should this not, like, how important is it if we want things done that it passes now as opposed to, we can't go back in 3 months and ask for it again, is my question. Like, what's that?
Correct.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Rick and I were just looking for, we had some spreadsheet data on that, so, but we don't have it on the presentation. So, great question. So, kind of back to what Garrett was talking about, if it doesn't pass, then we have to utilize some of the save dollars to then prioritize what are the high needs, you know, what the maintenance items, you know, the EFS repairs, air conditioning, that type of thing. Look all around, try to figure out what are those highest needs. Now, one thing to think about, safety, right? So you think about our current football stadium, right? You think about the bleachers and the safety of those, the crow's nest. They're not, you start digging into the bathrooms and renovating bathrooms and things like that. And those are some big issues that you're going to have to try and figure out where that funding is coming from and really prioritize. It's going to take years and years to be able to repair that stuff. If it doesn't pass, you go back to the drawing board and figure out how can we start chipping away at some of this stuff. But we have to also understand that we still have to use that funding stream to purchase new buses, to purchase updated technology, to do all of those items as well. So.
There's been a lot of discussion about space, you know, running out of space here, and why aren't we creating more space? And you remember Rick mentioned that part of the reason we're going to get more space is like gaining more efficiency of underutilized space, right? So could you maybe explain a little bit more to the group about, what was the process you went through, or how did you determine how much space you have that was underutilized, and how's that going to translate into people? What's going to be the benefit or bad impact of that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I should try. So kind of what we talked about is how much space do you think we would potentially need if we bring 7th and 8th grade over down to this wing, right? So we have an ICM room, I don't know if you ever been to the ICM room, it's a tiered floor currently. So we talked about leveling that provides us with room. We talked about dividing this into 3 spaces, so that provides us, we'll have a library, 2 more extra spaces potentially. So we just really thought about what our current enrollment is, what are the potential spaces we could use, and really thought about those spaces and how we could utilize those spaces, and then work through that way. Is that what you're asking?
Like the tiered room you referred to, is that like just not used around at all, or is it only used for 25%?
I don't even know if I'd give 25%. It's not used very often.
We use it one period a day.
One period a day.
And it's a class that can be hosted in another space.
Okay, so you're taking those spaces and 10% utilized on the birds and like some.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what we're getting, that's where you're big.
And we got a classroom right next door to the library here that's open all the time. We don't host any classes in that room next door. So we got 2 classrooms at the high school and at our hall. And then another piece is we'd be moving the study halls that are in here out to our commons area, hosting it right there, where it was hosted a couple years ago. So this will open up this for a couple of months.
So I assume that both of the project will be the stadiums and the HVAC units? I assume that most of
The
it.
EFS was a big cost item as well. That goes around the entire.
Okay, but utilizing the space more efficiently would be a big bulk of the cost. So if it potentially didn't go through, and then you had to reevaluate things, that's maybe not as high of a cost. So you could look at,
remodeling.
yeah, like when she was asking.
Yeah, and it depends, like a science, you put a science room together, that costs a lot more money than if you just go in and power, you know, that type of thing. So it'll depend on the space as well. I'm assuming bringing up that floor, that's going to be a much
Just
higher
like a college
cost.
lecture hall.
Yeah, right. You can lead it.
Yeah.
You are correct, though. The stadium is the bulk of that. The stadium and the site improvements are the bulk.
Do you have an idea of cost for the stadium?
Yeah, for the stadium, the new stadium location, which is the synthetic field, the new track, the additional restrooms to the concession stand, the loop road, and converting the existing stadium into a multi-purpose field is $8.4 million.
Wow.
You said that was renovating in place. That number's renovating in place.
No, that's new stadium in new location, 8.4.
Subtotal is 7.2. Make sure you're looking at, I know that spreadsheet is 7.2.
I don't have the spreadsheet with me. I got the
8.4 was an existing in place.
I got the slide from the last presentation.
And you're doing nothing to the old stadium? It'll just sit there till there's
The old
funding.
stadium is removed. And frankly, the old stadium, while it's safe, it has costs that are on the horizon that we will need to spend because of disrepair that's coming.
So we're just gonna lock it off? We're going to
We're
tear
going
it
to
down?
reuse the field, remove the track, and remove the press box.
I've heard some rumors that I guess I kind of want it cleared up. And I've seen the map. In the high school, we have a room, Mr. Warrington's room, that used to be 2 rooms and now it's 1 room. I've heard that that's going to be made into go back to 2 rooms.
No.
No. Okay.
It'll be 1 room, it'll be used by a couple of teachers, just like we have that currently. But it would remain as 1 room.
Okay, so then we could still host ACTs in that. Okay, so that clears that up. The other question is, I've heard rumor that the 7th and 8th grade special ed then would be sharing a room with the current high school. So you could potentially have 3 teachers in 1 room.
That's the room you're discussing is exactly what that is.
So we would have 1 larger room with 3 teachers
Yes.
and have 7th through 12th in there?
Yes, but keep in mind that I don't want anyone sitting here thinking that's 45 kids, as you know. That's a max of, usually on a period by period basis, when we looked at that, like in the future, that's a max of 6 to 9 kids per period, not a day.
6 max, 6 per period. So you could have some in there that are taking tests while others are studying, but you're still going to be talking 7th grade through 12th grade.
So special education would be those kids blend. Is that correct?
Special education would be the only room where kids blend, is what she asked. If we're trying to keep separate.
There would be some blending in that room.
Oh, they'd have to be.
So if you have a child in there that's needing emotional regulation, that's a high school student who's discussing some personal issues, and you're bringing in a 7th grader who needs a quiet testing space, what do you do?
What we currently do, I have 2 situations going on at the same time in that room, in that space, because we'll utilize multiple spaces. Sometimes they use the high school conference room, whatever it might be, to kind of get into different areas.
Because again, we currently share with that sped in the 912, right? So that's not unique.
There's situations where I give up my office space too if I need to.
Oh, and one more question, sorry. You can tell what end I work at. So the restrooms down here are beyond disgusting. There's 3 stalls in the girls, and I've never been in boys. Are we going to lose then, when you redo that, are we going to lose the teacher's lounge? Or how?
It's not expanded. So the bathroom's not expanding,
The
correct?
bathroom's not expanding.
No,
You
it's
just
just-
need to-
it's just-
So it's still 3 stalls.
It's just rentals into like.
I welcome anyone to come down here during the school day with 3 stalls. Good girl.
If you don't, again, no different than current.
What?
I said no different than the current situation.
Right,
You're not
exactly.
adding any more kids, you're not needing.
Yeah.
But they are able to go to other parts of the building.
Sure.
They go up front a lot.
And you still have, don't forget, you still have the music hallway. They're not, we're not talking about those, right? So that would be
Right.
another setup over here.
But they have to go through the 7th and 8th grade area to get to those
I'm
bathrooms.
more talking during counting time, so before school when 7 and 12 are all together, during lunches, you know what I mean? You're gonna have that additional option of new restrooms that are over there, whereas these are obviously the opposite.
Yeah.
A lot of people complain about lines, that's why they leave during classes, because there's still lines when passing through. They can't all get through and passing through with 3 stalls and the front bathrooms. And so they leave during your class because it's a line.
Okay, so I do have one thing, Rick. Can you walk us through how we came to where we were with the restoration in place on the stadium, when we have existed, and the new stadium, and the cost difference? I think it's very
I
important.
get the question a lot, all the time. Why don't we just renovate what we have to be cheap? And you have explained 100 times to me why, so did Dan. I think it's important to read. The example I give is, I had to go replace my septic tank, and I thought it was gonna cost me $10,000. Turns out it was out of code, and it ended up costing me $35,000 to get a new septic tank, and I didn't know. Can you please explain that logic,
So there were basically 3 things that we looked at in terms of bundling the choices from renovating the existing stadium all the way to the new stadium. And I'm sorry, I don't have the spreadsheet that I should have brought this evening to explain some of that better. But the first option was to basically renovate the stadium in
84647
Thank you. First option was to renovate the existing stadium in place, putting back natural grass. So that option includes basically stripping and re-leveling the existing field, putting back in natural turf, resurfacing the existing track, building a new and additional concession stand with restrooms because we cannot use conveniently the concessions back here by the softball field and the restrooms that are currently there. The second option was to renovate the stadium in place, but actually put in synthetic turf, which is appreciably more expensive. And the reason for that is you're not just stripping and reworking the turf, you're basically stripping the turf and going deeper to make sure you've got all the drainage necessary to support a synthetic turf system. So with those 2 options, when you're renovating all of those things, you've got the demo associated with it as well. You've got the time, obviously, that's necessary to do it, so we're going to potentially lose a season of time. We don't get the advantage of adding a multi-purpose field or reconfiguring the field to a north-south direction. The last option then was the new stadium in new location. So basically that's putting in, with the existing stadium in place, putting in a new field, synthetic turf, the 8-lane track, the additional restrooms. There's no concession stand constructed because we're going to utilize the concession stand we just built for the softball and baseball. You complete the loop road around campus, which also improves safety, and you're converting the existing stadium, as I said, to the multi-purpose field. Now your phone just went off, I tell you, don't have it. My Face ID is not going to work on this.
Didn't we just put an irrigation in that football field a couple years ago?
So in the current game field,
Yeah.
yes, that was not taxpayer, that was athletic money that was put in.
But I mean,
That
are we
would
gonna
remain.
lose it then? Like, when
What's
we-
that?
Is it gonna get lost then? Like, is that
No.
lost money that, or are you guys ripping it out, or is that staying?
You'd be able to reuse it if you want.
Be a soccer field or something.
It's all, it's just ex-housing.
So the field's not going away.
Yeah, you'd still want it for the
Said it
next
was,
field.
it's gonna tear everything down.
It's
No,
gonna
the
tear
field is
bleachers
staying,
down,
the
it's gonna
track.
tear the press box down, but it'll be a multi-purpose field for soccer. What do you
Right.
think? And other things.
Let's let him finish with that, and then
Yeah, so what's, help me understand what the confusion is around the multi-purpose field.
I thought you said you were ready to tear everything down. Everything was.
The press box, the bleachers, the lighting, yes, all of that goes away. The field stays.
So the irrigation is there to stay.
Yeah, and it gets expanded to potentially support soccer, which we can't do now. So that's one of the advantages.
On that field, if you're putting a new field in, why wouldn't we keep the old field when we can play soccer on the new field?
You can do both.
You can do all of that.
Yes, you can do both, right.
Norwalk, they all do that.
The turf field would be a competition field for soccer. Yes, those lines would be there,
Yeah.
light gray or light yellow, yes, yes.
the elementary is also planning on possibly utilizing it at baseball house.
Regardless, I only have one more question. How many 7th and 8th grade classes do we have, classrooms do we have currently?
Yes, how many 7th grade classes?
Classroom.
Plus, five gen.
And I was told we needed one daycare and one kindergarten. Where, if my math is right, where's the other 3 rooms going?
Well, there's a lot of reuse and change for how the rooms will be used, because there's support spaces in addition to the classrooms that we're trying to address. As was noted earlier, we're kind of busting at the seams, not only in some classroom situations, but in the support spaces. If you would like to come up and see a plan with me after the meeting, I can show you some of
I'd
these.
love to.
Real quick, Rick. While I keep hearing that our current situation on our football field is safe, there's also things we don't have that, like some of our handicapped kids that we have, don't have places for the wheelchair to sit up elevated right now. So, a lot of code things that like, we have, if we were to try to redo a place or everything else, we would have to spend the same amount of money or more making that happen. Certain situations.
And that is anticipated in the cost that we're talking about. If we renovate the stadium, we have to meet those requirements, and we don't have them now.
So you're gonna have more parking then for that?
There is.
Correct.
Okay, one thing I'd like to say about the football field that we have right now, being on the sidelines, we hear a lot of complaints from the people that are sitting on the north, or the far side. Where's the bathrooms? In order for them to get to the bathroom, they gotta walk all the way around the track. Or to get to the concession stand, they gotta go all the way around the track. I mean, that's the number one thing you hear is, where's the bathrooms? You know, how far away is the bathrooms? And I just think with the brand new field, there's a lot of options there that a lot of people don't realize. The field we have now takes a lot of maintenance. There's a lot of mowing. There's a lot of painting that goes on in it. With a turf field, you'll eliminate that, and it's very little maintenance that you do on it. As far as cost on a new field, like what they're wanting to put in, Norwalk's putting in a field right now just for baseball, and if they'd have done it 2 years ago, it'd have been $2 million less than what they're paying right now. Norwalk, or Indianola's putting one in, and their cost, they kept all the fence, and they did it in stages. They put new fence in, new dugouts in, and now they're putting the turf in, and it's still coming out to just about $6 million. So if you can do all of this for $8 million, I'm on board, guys. That's a bargain, because I know Johnston put theirs in
6 years ago. It was $2 million a piece to do softball and then $2 million to do their baseball.
All right, not to jump back, so in the high school, we'd be reusing the ICM room, the current math room, so that's 4 for the middle school. Where are the other 2 coming from?
There's 4 that are in that corridor, and there would be 1 that came here.
So would our like tech stay where it's at? And because I've also heard that like the counselor's office is moving, or the FC, like the foods room is being essentially split. Like, I guess, can you explain what rooms will actually be used in that hallway and what's staying versus what's, like, I know we're talking about renovating the ICU room and those things, but what rooms are actually being
And I'm sorry, I should have brought something that would have gotten into that detail. I have printouts of some of that information if you want it, but one of the things I should point out is we know that the square footage works. The exact details of how those rooms go together and what adjacencies are best, those are still things that can be determined as we go through design. The design is not done.
Okay.
It's just all it is doing right now is saying, we need this much square foot, we're testing it within the existing building, and we're making estimates based on that square footage. No design has been finalized or even put in place that I would tell you is concrete.
I'm just curious, like,
Yeah.
I think personally, like, I utilize Ms. Walls quite a bit, maybe a little bit too much some days, but I've heard that, like, they might be pushed out to the bus barn, and then if we have, like, repairs that are needing to happen, like, as the day goes through, or lost computers and kids needing replacements, like, I was just curious how that.
We are not moving her to the bus barn.
Okay. I see you can't take her away from me, I'll be calling her.
We're actually gonna put her in your room, so.
Oh, we could be.
I didn't say that.
I'll take her any day of the week, she can come visit, it's fine, but, just curious.
Okay, what else can we answer for you tonight? Okay, so you know what to do next, right?
Early voting's open, FYI.
There you go. Go vote.
But you can't get absentee
Go
ballots.
vote.
All right, we will stick around for a little bit. If anybody has
I work
any
in the
questions, want to come up and follow up.
So my
with us,
son called yesterday.
feel free, otherwise, we appreciate you guys attending and being with us and allowing us to answer your questions. Board members, don't forget.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor, signify by